don't just want the news, they want the truth. What others hide, I bring to you with evidence. Politics, corruption, human rights. No filters, no fear, just facts. I don't stop until the system shakes. This is Trending Daily and I'm Makhdoom Shahbuddin. And today we're going to talk about something that looks small on the surface, but reveals something very large underneath. India's growing obsession with alleged drone intrusions along the line of control, and what that obsession is actually hiding. Every few weeks, Indian media flashes breaking news about another drone spotted, another drone intercepted, another drone neutralized. It is presented as a dramatic national security success. Anchors speak in urgent tones, graphics turn red, words like terror threat, foreign sabotage, and hybrid warfare are repeated again and again. But the more India talks about drones, the more uncomfortable a deeper truth becomes. India is not fighting a drone problem. India is managing a strategic failure. And the drone narrative is the distraction. Because while Indian television screams about quadcopters allegedly crossing from Pakistan, something far more serious is happening quietly in the north, where China is steadily redrawing the map of the Himalayas, and India is being pushed into a slow, silent retreat. The contrast is striking. On one side, there is hysteria over a flying object the size of a backpack carrying 2 pistols. On the other hand, there is silence as permanent Chinese infrastructure rises on land that India itself patrolled until 2020. This contrast tells us everything we need to know about what this drone narrative really is. It is not about defense. It is about embarrassment management. Since the Galwan clash in 2020, India's strategic position against China has worsened year after year. Despite loud rhetoric, massive spending, and constant declarations of strength, India has not regained lost ground. It has not restored its patrol routes. It has not reasserted dominance along the line of actual control. Instead, China has done something far more effective than fighting. It has built bridges, roads, railways, villages, helipads, logistics hubs, 5G towers, permanent dual-use settlements. China has not just occupied territory, it has normalized it. It has transformed disputed zones into functional, administered, lived-in spaces. That is how modern territorial control works, not by planting flags, but by embedding infrastructure. India, by contrast, has struggled even to complete tunnels that remain closed for months due to weather, terrain, and delays. So while China converts altitude into advantage, India converts anxiety into headlines. This is where the drone narrative enters. Every drone claim creates a spectacle that redirects national emotion away from the Himalayas and toward Pakistan. It provides a visible enemy, a manageable enemy, an enemy that fits neatly into the old nationalistic scripts. China is too big to confront emotionally. Pakistan sounds familiar. China is structurally threatening. Pakistan is symbolically threatening. And symbols are easier to manage than realities. So the Indian public is trained to watch the western border while the northern border is quietly reshaped. This is not accidental. It is strategic communication. The drone accusations serve 3 political functions. First, they create the illusion of constant vigilance. By announcing that drones are being detected and stopped, the state presents itself as alert, active, and protective. Secondly, they produce a low-cost external threat. Drones are cheap, non-escalatory, and vague. They can be blamed without consequences. They generate outrage without requiring war. Third, they divert attention from China. This is the most important function, as one regional analyst put it, that the glare of drone lights on the LOC is meant to blind the people to the shadows falling over the line of actual control. The effect is psychological as much as political. The public feels threatened. The public feels defended. The public feels mobilized. But the public does not feel informed. And this is where the embarrassment lies. India is world's fifth largest economy. It is one of the largest military spenders. It boasts advanced missile defense systems, satellite surveillance, Israeli sensors, Russian S-400 batteries, and indigenous drone programs. Yet it behaves as a consumer quadcopter is a strategic shock. At the same time, it avoids confronting the fact that a more powerful adversary has outmaneuvered it without firing a shot. That is the humiliation, not the drone, but the contrast. Consider the territorial reality. Since 2020, India has lost access to around 2,000 square kilometers of territory in eastern Ladakh. Critical patrolling points in the Depsang Plains are now dominated by China. PLA-backed shepherd settlements occupy areas around Demchok and Chishil. Buffer zones have been created that prevent Indian patrols from entering areas that were once routinely accessed by Indian forces. These buffer zones are presented diplomatically as disengagement. In reality, they are retreats. They are carved almost entirely out of Indian patrol territory, effectively legalizing China's advance. This is not stability. This is normalization of loss. And normalization is the most dangerous form of defeat because it does not feel like defeat. It feels like compromise. It feels technical. It feels diplomatic, but it is structural. The map changes quietly. The language changes loudly. And the people are taught to look somewhere else. This is why the drone narrative exists. It replaces a story of loss with a story of threat. It replaces retreat with resistance. It replaces silence with noise. And noise is easier to manage than shame. Another important part of the narrative is the lack of evidence. India repeatedly announces drone intrusions, yet rarely releases technical data, imagery, trajectories, or independent verification. In modern military environments, that kind of evidence is standard, especially for a state that prides itself on transparency and democratic norms. The absence of proof does not automatically mean the claims are false, but it does mean the claims are politically useful because vagueness allows flexibility. A drone can be anything. A drone can be hostile. A drone can be accidental. A drone can be blamed. A drone can be dramatized. And a drone can be forgotten. Territorial loss cannot. It stays. It shapes the borders. It shapes power. It shapes history. And that is why India prefers the drones. They are temporary. China is permanent. There is also a technological embarrassment embedded here. India has invested billions in anti-drone grids, radar networks, missile systems, and integrated defense architecture. Yet it continues to report frequent intrusions. This suggests either the system is porous or the system is being used rhetorically. Neither option is flattering. If the system fails, it is a capability problem. If the system works but the narrative persists, it is a political problem. Either way, the drone story is not a story of strength. It is a story of insecurity. And insecurity is the defining emotion of this moment. India's leadership built its political brand on strength, decisiveness, and national resurgence. But China has exposed the limits of that performance. China does not respond to speeches. It responds to logistics. It does not react to slogans. It reacts to roles. It does not engage in television wars. It engages in terrain transformation. India's failure is not that China advanced. India's failure is that it allowed China to advance without consequence. This is the strategic failure. Everything else is noise. And the noise is getting louder because the reality is getting heavier. This is why Pakistan becomes useful in this story. Pakistan is not the main threat. Pakistan is the main distraction. Pakistan is emotionally familiar. Pakistan fits the old frames. Pakistan fits the election rhetoric. Pakistan fits nationalism. China does not. China forces questions India does not want to answer. Why was there no response after Galwan? Why has no territory been recovered? Why are the buffer zones asymmetric? Why is infrastructure lagging? Why are petrol routes gone? Why is China building villages on disputed land? Why is India silent? Those are dangerous questions. So instead, the question becomes, where did this drone come from? It is a safer question. It does not threaten leadership capability. It does not threaten the national mythology. It does not threaten the political legitimacy. It only threatens a neighbor. And neighbors are easier than mirrors. This is why the narrative persists. Not because it is strategically central, but because it is politically useful. But usefulness does not equal truth. And narratives cannot replace geography. India can shoot down 1,000 drones. It cannot shoot down a bridge. It cannot shoot down a road. It cannot shoot down a railway. It cannot shoot down a village. It cannot shoot down normalization. This is what China has achieved. Not victory, normalization. And normalization is what defines borders in the 21st century. The danger for India is not that it is losing territory. The danger is that it is teaching its population not to care. This is how great powers decline, not through collapse, but through distraction. Not through invasion, but through accommodation. Not through defeat, but through managed retreat. This is what we are watching. Not a crisis, but a transition. From confrontation to containment. From ambition to adjustment. From assertion to acceptance. The drone narrative is the theater that covers this transition. It provides emotion without resolution, drama without consequence, action without strategy. It gives the appearance of motion while nothing changes. And that is why it is ultimately hollow. India does not need more drones. It needs a China policy. It needs honesty. It needs realism. It needs diplomacy that acknowledges power imbalances. It needs military planning that reflects geography, not ideology. Until that happens, no amount of drone interceptions will change the strategic equation, and no amount of media noise will prevent the map from changing. Because maps do not listen to speeches. They respond to roads. They respond to presence. They respond to permanence. And permanence is exactly what China is building, while India just talks. This was Trending Daily. I'm Makhdoom Shahbuddin. See you in the next episode.